Logic and Reason starts now. Salutations, everyone, and welcome in on this Thursday night. Salutations, everyone. I am Devo, Primo. I am joined by
Melissa. What up, y'all?
And this is Logic and Reason, where we discuss people's logic and their reason. If you like that, please hit the like and subscribe. And we have a little bit of housekeeping for today. It's
Yes, some housekeeping. Thank you all for participating on Twitter and on the community tab on YouTube. Just go to our page, slide over the different tabs, and you'll find community posts where you can see some insightful quotes that we've put up there about logic and the credit to who said these quotes. But also, you get to participate and choose what kind of shows we have coming up next. We saw right now there's a tie between the next episode after this one with Doc Rivers, John Morant yet again. Y'all know he's in trouble again. And Jamie Foxx's health scare. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. And last time y'all did vote for him, we talked a little bit about him. If you do want us to choose that, go ahead and let us know. It's kind of a three-way tie right now, so you have the chance right now to vote. So
what was that last entry?
Jamie Foxx's health scare.
Okay.
So he's had some health problems. Before that, he had a little drama about someone trying to scam him for some money. So just hold him hostage for some information. I guess he obtained hacking or something. But that the hacker obtained, I mean.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just go on there. You'll see the different options. There's one without a vote. Oh, Jonathan Majors. That's another one. Maybe y'all don't want to hear about him and his situation. But, we do social commentary. We tried to pose some questions out there to have some food for thought. And we want to hear what you think and what you'd like to hear about more so we can lean towards that direction.
Yeah,
so thank you for participating.
We're definitely appreciative of all the comments that we've seen thus far. You guys have been really cool in the comment section.
Absolutely. And the new subscribers. Shout out to new subscribers. Welcome.
All right, so this is part 2 of the series of Clarence Thomas. If you guys tuned in yesterday, or not yesterday, it was Tuesday, we talked about the making of a sellout and kind of his history. And it was an interesting journey. I didn't know much about Clarence before this series, and so it was interesting to kind of see, where he came from and why he is the way he is.
Same here.
We left off talking about the what do they call it? The confirmation hearing.
Oh yes, his confirmation hearing.
And in the midst of that confirmation hearing, Anita Hill came forward to talk about his sexual harassment history, and so we kind of left off there. And what was interesting about that is the response from Sleepy Joe. Right, Joe Biden he was presiding over that committee that time. And as soon as Clarence Thomas said the word lynch and lynching, the committee immediately started to just jump and just, let's just get this over with so we can get this guy out of here.
They backed down immediately. I mean, it's like the equivalent of the black card today. I mean, he just pulled it out there and he knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing.
I mean, all of a sudden he's black.
And here's my, I guess I have a bunch of problems with all this, but one of my problems is that black people immediately jumped to his aid and started supporting Clarence during this time. And it's almost as if they forgot who this guy was for the past 10 or so years. He's not a new guy. Like, he was already, kissing Ronald Reagan's butt and brown-nosing every single Republican there that was in D.C.
Oh, absolutely.
So he was already doing that, and then somehow we forgot that, and because he's black and because he said the word lynch, we just jumped to his aid and started supporting him again. Although it was a short support. It wasn't very long, but just still, I would hope that we have a longer memory and be like, hey, just because, see the game, right? That's really all I want people to do is see the game. Like, this guy is not all of a sudden had to change their heart, or he got his black card. you know how sometimes when prominent black folks end up getting in trouble, and they think that they, you know, are above the law and stuff. Older folks say, "Oh, see, he just got his black card." As some people would say, that's what Jordan Majors is getting. But yeah, so that
getting a real reality check.
Right. But this is, you know, I kind of found that disturbing.
Yes.
That we just jumped right in there. But one of the side effects of them rushing through that confirmation hearing is the fact that we didn't get to see truly the story behind what Anita I almost said Anita Baker. When Anita Hill was putting forth. And she wasn't the only woman. If you guys reference back to the documentary from Frontline, right, we noticed that there were several women who were saying, yeah, this guy was saying inappropriate things at work, and he's a porn addict, and he likes, I guess we were supposed to, it's YouTube, so I guess we gotta call it corn. He's a corn addict.
Yes, let's go and use it, YouTube. Even if you all go in the comments, make sure you use corn, grape.
Yeah. And so, you know, he was doing that, all this stuff. He was into weird things. He was saying racial jokes that are weird. Like, I've never heard a black person say, "Oh, who put this pubic hair on this soda?" Like, that was a weird, like, black people don't talk like that.
They really don't. And if y'all don't know, but I guess back in the day, that was humorous to them, hilarious.
It probably would be humorous to somebody now. I wouldn't even say it's even back in the day. To white people?
I mean, a bunch of people have curly hair. White people have curly hair.
True, but it's that type of crude humor.
Yeah,
I would say kind of like the Will Ferrell type humor, right? Like the
yeah, but that's I mean,
but Will
Ferrell wouldn't do the racist.
He's crude though, like the crude type humor.
Okay, yeah.
If it's in that, it's a racial crude, but it's crude.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right, because it's racial crude, but it's still crude. So, I don't know. Maybe in another world it was funny. Y'all tell us in the comments if that's funny.
No. In somebody else's world is funny. It's not funny to us.
Yeah.
Okay,
so we're aligned on that, because you said black people didn't find that funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what the show's about. So, all right.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, so that was interesting. So we missed an opportunity to really see what was going on over there. And I guess for the first, maybe you can say decade, Clarence Thomas was pretty much, you know, in the shadow of Antonin and Scalia. So we didn't really see much action from him as far as being in the Supreme Court. Some people were saying that he wasn't qualified to be on the Supreme Court at the time of his confirmation hearing, which there is some evidence that can help support that. He was only a judge for like a year. Which
I was like, okay, maybe he was actually put in that position. You know, they know these things. They know well ahead in advance who they're going to appoint or who they might appoint. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe that was a strategic position that he was placed in a year before. I don't think he happened to be in that position and then they say, "Oh, you have a year of experience." No. I really don't think he had judicial experience, and that's just my objective opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
but even if you did, how much is a year of experience worth to jump from? What kind of court did you say it was?
He was in the U.S. Appeals Court of Appeals, District of Columbia Circuit,
and then jump to the
Supreme Court.
And you're gonna and then you're going through the district court. What's it called? D.C. court, and D.C. is not an official state. You all know that already. But so it's like you haven't even reviewed cases from all the 50 states that have full cases that go through the regular, the different ranks before you get to appeals court, the circuit court, you know, and then so where it could be remanded back to start over again. I don't know if he knew all those decisions, maybe academically from reading, but had he had the experience? But I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter because sometimes you have the network, which they did highlight in the documentary.
I wouldn't push too hard on the position because Justice John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they were all appellate courts judges. So I wouldn't push too hard on that. But the fact
But
that
that's what I'm saying is they had gone through courts, appellate judges. That means they've read through cases that were through the appeals court, and they've also read through. I mean, before you get to appeals, you've gone through the circuit court. So
right, so he was on circuit. That's what I'm saying. His position is the same as those other justices. Okay. I would say the bigger issue is the fact that he was only there for like 19 months.
Precisely.
So
I don't know. Y'all tell us what you think is enough.
So that's where it's like, I don't know. I mean, we all know what the business is.
I usually don't like this kind of conversation though, too, with if they're qualified enough, because I'm usually, especially during Obama, I was very sensitive and like, well, I think they're only bringing this up because he's black and maybe he's not qualified enough. Who's qualified to be president? You make the numerical requirements of being 35.
But here's the problem with that. The reason why this conversation exists and why it exists back then is because we all know, anybody who's been paying attention all know how he got there. He's a product of great networking and brown nosing.
Oh yeah.
Like it wasn't.
Yeah. And don't forget the third one, the affirmative.
Right, but even you can take that aside because it really wasn't even about that. It was the fact that he was a black dude who
he fit the mold of what they wanted to put forward.
Yes, and before he was the judge for that circuit court, he was the equal employment opportunity. He was a chairman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for Ronald Reagan, right? So he was already embedded with the Republicans of D.C. and the conservative movement. They needed to shove a black person in there, and so they're like, "Oh, cool, we have a guy on a silver platter. We're just going to shove him in there, and he happens to be an appellate judge, so it works out."
A match made in heaven.
Right. They didn't spend much effort trying to actually vet and like as far as doing going off of merits and like, oh, who's a seasoned judge that would fit this position.
Oh, of course not, because they already had him in their back, but he was already in their back pocket.
And that's the point. That's why I'm saying like this is the reason why you can open the conversation about how he wasn't qualified for this job.
Okay.
Because of the whole nature. Yeah, because the whole nature of how he got there in the first place.
Yeah.
It wasn't based off of merit.
Yeah.
Obama got elected.
Oh, of course.
That's what I'm saying. These are two entirely different circumstances.
Yes. Voting for the people versus being appointed. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that's where, now I don't know enough about those judges, so I'm not going to weigh in, but I can see the argument here. I can make several arguments against. And I imagine a lot of people did, but at the end of the day, this is an appointed position by the president. So, no one has a say in this outside of the president, and that president happened to be old man Bush, HW, right? Now, I find it interesting, going back a little bit, I find it interesting talking about him being the chairman for that Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, because he's had the stance against affirmative action since his whole struggle after law school.
Yeah, it's been pretty consistent.
And so you can clearly kind of see old man Bush's motivations there, or his agenda based off of that appointment. Like a guy a black dude who is against affirmative action, and you put him as a chairman of this committee. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. But one of the things that the documentary said is that he along with his best friend Harlan Crow and some other conservative folks, and his wife a huge part of this. His wife is way more radical than he is.
Oh my God. Ginny is nuts.
Ginny is crazy. But their whole thing is that these guys are working together to try to dial back rights and freedoms that have been established for the last 50 or so years. Right? That's kind of the documentary's argument, and it's bias, I guess, if you want to call it that. So when they mentioned that he was against the Voting Rights Act, I didn't know what specifically they were talking about. Right? I didn't know, like, okay, when you say against, like, was there a case that was brought up to the Supreme Court, and they were just like, oh, no more Voting Rights Act? And he was the main dude who was talking? Like, what is this? What are we doing? Right? So
what are we doing here?
I had to look that one up because I don't like to parrot what people say, right? I take my integrity very seriously. And, I like to gather information, but I want to formulate my own thought on this. And so just them saying, oh, he was against it without really giving clarification is a red flag for me. So we had to dig that up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think you found the actual case, or what did you find?
A couple different things. Well, you're the one who told me it was Shelby County.
Shelby County versus Holder.
Yeah.
So on Clarence Thomas's website, right, it goes into some of the main decisions that he's made. And so I'm just going to rip it off of his website real quick in relation to the Voting Rights Act. So it says, Justice Thomas argues that the Supreme Court should treat voting rights laws in a principled fashion, right? In Shelby County versus Holder, the court enjoined one burdensome requirement under the Voting Rights Act, not the other. Justice Thomas called that decision inconsistent because the majority compellingly demonstrates why both provisions were unconstitutional. So you're saying there was an element within the Voting Rights Act that was unconstitutional. In Holder versus Hall, Justice Thomas made a similar point. He argued that the prevailing legal tests for the interpreting the Voting Rights Act did not comport with the terms, which I'm not really sure what that means.
I know they just like to have such jargon and I'm like, who are y'all talking to?
Of the statute.
Okay.
And led to a demonstrous misadventure.
Okay.
In judicial policymaking. What is a misadventure in judicial policymaking?
They're just trying to throw words together.
Even when he sympathized with practical concerns, which to me, that means he acknowledges the need for the Voting Rights Act, maybe?
Overall.
Can you interpret that with that phrase?
That maybe he acknowledged the need for overall, and then he
said
that.
The practical concerns? He thinks the text should come first. So he's
a textualist.
Yes, I think the documentary also mentioned this. He is a person who is a stickler to the books type of dude. I know Thurgood Marshall was saying that the Constitution was a living document and, it should move with the times. Clarence Thomas believes that the document is like a holy text that should be read literally and without adultering or evolving or amending, right? Like it is what it is, how the founding fathers wrote it to be, kind of approach to it.
Yeah.
So he's saying that there was some element within the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that was unconstitutional.
And he actually followed through and voted against that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Or voted against the overall thing because that's what they voted on, but he was saying the result was because of that specific element. Okay. I understand a little bit.
Yeah. And I think the element was the fact that it requires some southern states to have to report something.
Yes, I finally found that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, bear with me, y'all. Section 4B, codified in 52 USC, that's the United States Code, 10303. The established criteria was known as the coverage formula, and it prescribed which states and jurisdictions with a history of discrimination were required to obtain pre-clearance under Section 5 before implementing a change to a voting law or practice. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, go ahead. You look like you're about to say something. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. It looks like, so the Shelby versus, what is this?
Shelby County versus
Holder. So it looked like Shelby County in Alabama wanted to go ahead and make some changes to their voting thing, but every time that they want to do something, since they were one of the states that has a history of discrimination, they always had to get clearance. So now, because of Section 4 and 4A and 5, 4B and 5, but they wanted to go ahead and strike that down and say, hey, that's unconstitutional that you keep checking on the states. Stop checking on me. I just want to be able to make my own decisions. But every time I have to go back and check with the federal government before I make any changes, and other states don't have to do that, but it's only to us. And that maybe that would be unconstitutional. Why does it apply to us only and not the other states? But y'all were racist.
Because there's a reason for that. So y'all let us know, right? Tell us what you think in the chat or in the comment section.
Oh, yeah, I have to get to comments when you're ready.
So is it right for some of these southern states to still be penalized for their history?
While y'all are answering that, I'm going to go back a little bit to when I asked if if Clarence Thomas was qualified. Fultonian says, and sorry if I mispronounced the name, go ahead and correct me, seems sketchy. And at least he's consistent. Lol. LOL. Yeah. Yeah. I guess consistent on some parts, right?
Yeah.
Consistently anti-black.
I think that this is a very nice, convenient way. So there's two different ways, right? There's two different ways that I can interpret all this. The first way is this is a very convenient way to destroy the Voting Rights Act and kind of guise it over or under the umbrella of you're infringing on state rights. Right? Yeah. If I was a person who, at the end of the day, I did not want this to be in existence, and I'm trying to pick a hole through it, that would be the hole I would try to pick. Or the other way I can look at this as this guy has no contextual understanding. And even though there might be a flaw or two within a piece of legislation, the overall benefit is positive. Therefore, the law or policy is positive. Not everything is perfect.
Okay.
But there is a reason why this law was put in place. Mm-hmm. And this was a historic reason. And I'm not 100% convinced that we're past that.
Yeah.
Right? What would be your evidence to support those southern states are complying with
that you shouldn't
equal access to voting?
And that you don't have to check in anymore.
We have there's always news coming out every time there's an election about Georgia or Mississippi. Either it's a gerrymandering issue.
Yep.
Or somebody didn't have access to a voting poll.
There's always doing something crazy.
There's always something going on. Or the voter ID thing was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's like, are we done with it? Clarence, what are you looking at that I don't see?
Yeah.
The
voter ID, people try to be like, oh, well, who doesn't have an ID? Well, yeah. It's not who doesn't have an ID. It's the type of IDs that they decide, okay, well, actually, we said we were going to accept your passport, but we're not going to do that. Or your state ID.
Your passport is your passport's a federal ID.
Facts.
Wouldn't you be able to use your passport anywhere? It's a federal. It's a federal ID.
But depending on who's running the voting polls,
you're telling me that I can use this passport to get back into the country if I went overseas, but I can't use this document to vote?
Yes. Fulton says, remember your history or you're doomed to repeat it.
It's 100% facts. Right. And that's one of the issues that we have with our society right now is the fact that we have zero interest in history. And that's very unfortunate because that means we're just going to tiptoe right into a lot of these problems.
You touch a soft point. That's, logic and reason over here, all about the history. Devo Primo.
Hey, it's important. So that's why we kind of titled this, is this a product of self-hate or is this guy, because he claims to be an independent thinker and he likes to piss people off because he doesn't like to fit the mold. He wants to break the mold. He wants to be different. But is this being different or is this being an ass? Like what is this? Right. One of the other issues we had was affirmative action. I think he has some verbiage on his website. He does. All right, so as it relates to affirmative action, right? He wrote on his website, for decades, Justice Thomas has objected that affirmative action violates the Equal Protection Clause. Mm-hmm. You happen to know what the Equal Protection Clause is? If you can look that one up.
Sure.
All right. So
are you asking the number or what are you talking about?
No, I'm asking what it is, the Equal Protection Clause.
Oh, okay.
In reference.
Well, okay.
He wrote in a separate opinion disapproving of the racial partnerism exemption for the principle of equal protection, which is still racial discrimination, plain and simple. In Gerter versus Boilinger, he critiqued the Supreme Court for putting affirmative action on a 25-year time limit. He couldn't imagine the Equal Protection Clause could mean something different 300 months after the opinion was released. While the Supreme Court has not adopted his view, it might in the future. And I think the reason why he wrote that in there is because we're getting more conservative justices on the Supreme Court, although with the election of Joe Biden, that shift has changed. I know his wife, Ginny, was completely distraught when Sleepy Joe got elected. I mean, she went nuts. She's over here texting random people. She's texting
conspiracy theory.
She's over here Twitter fingering the chief of staff at the White House saying, yo, blah, 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 blah. And like, just a bunch of crazy stuff. And you know, I imagine if you got a crazy tweet from Jenny, you're like, why is she doing this? Like, what? How did she get my number? Like, that's what I would be thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Where did you get my number? And why are you calling me? Why are you messaging me?
Yes. Right. She was at the as they call it, the insurrection. She was there on January 6th, right, at that rally. She claims she left before people started destroying property.
Right.
But, you know, she was there.
Of course she did. She wasn't there.
Yeah. What's interesting about Ginny is I don't know if Clarence is the top or bottom of the relationship.
How vulgar of you.
Write in the comments section, guys. Is he top or bottom? Because Ginny seems to be a very older modern woman. Even though she spent most of her young life fighting against feminism, she seems to be very I'm trying to find the right adjective here. Controlling.
You think Jenny's controlling over Clarence?
Maybe. I mean, I think there's an influence there. She doesn't seem to let things go, right? She is a.
We just got some laughs.
What happened?
Come on, y'all, top or bottom. Don't be scared. Don't be shy.
I mean, seriously, I'm trying to figure her out. Like, she's nuts, yes, but everybody's craziness comes from somewhere. And we didn't touch on it, but the documentary touched on her origin story. And she comes from a crazy family. So I can understand, you know, apples don't fall far from the tree. But I'm wondering what influence does she have on Clarence? Oh, y'all. One of the things we didn't touch on the last episode that we got to touch on today. All right. Actually, it's actually more relevant in this episode because we talked about Anita.
Okay.
All right. So you remember when the documentary was recounting all the different sexual harassment? Wait, before I lose my thought, the sexual harassment cases with all the different women talking about how Clarence was doing this and Clarence was doing that.
Yeah.
And then one of the questions I asked when we were watching that documentary was, wait, all of these women are black, right?
Yes.
And then the first time he meets Ginny, right, was at that event. Right,
Okay.
they were talking about employment or something, right? Mm-hmm. And she gets into his cab, right? I'm thinking this guy's just going to revert to his normal base programming, right?
Yeah.
I'm an ass. Yo, vulgar joke. Ooh, give me some, right? Something like that. He has no game, so I imagine it's probably really weird like that.
That could be his game.
And then Jenny's like, yo, you know, tell me about yourself. And then how what did she say? She said something like, how is it being a black man and being a conservative and getting hate from people? And he's like, I read my Bible. I'm like, what?
Yes.
Where was the Bible with Anita Hill?
I remember. See, you even made it sound better for him. No, literally on their first meeting. And I had to write it down during the documentary portion. How do you feel being, well, I guess it's going to sound the same thing. How do you feel being a black man in the Reagan administration? When you first meet somebody.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's obvious, yes, I'm a black man, right? If you, speaking to Clarence Thomas.
Yes.
But you just met him. And maybe you're enamored or you're like, okay, well, that's kind of strange. But wouldn't you wait to meet another time? Or maybe you weren't thinking you weren't going to meet? And this is because they caught a cab together to go home.
Remember, Jenny grew up in an all-white neighborhood. She hasn't met anybody who's not white.
I think it's so bold. For my opinion.
Man, but she's a Karen, so how is that bold? Karens are naturally bold.
She actually is. I didn't think about that before.
Oh yeah,
the show.
So that's not out of the that's not out of the norm for somebody like that.
Fulton Onion says from part 1, you guys alluded to her being his ticket in. Bottom.
All right. I think that might have been a slight misquote on us because we found out later on that Clarence was actually doing a lot of dirty work and a lot of brown nosing.
Wait, we have a divide. I thought she was still kind of his ticket in. He did some work. He did some of his own crawling and scratching and clawing to get to the position. But together, she's his ticket and he's her ticket.
No. She wasn't his ticket to get his position. She was his ticket to get the money.
To solidify the money and the backing. Okay, and that's the financial support.
Yes, because the friends was from her.
Yeah.
Right. So but it's as far as getting to the Supreme Court, that was Clarence.
No, he did that. I'll give him his credit where due. He did get that.
Right. He kissed a lot of butt to get there.
Whether it was by actually being I'll say an attorney, a judge, or
just he got that judge position because he was kissing butt. Like he did the kissing. She didn't do the kissing.
Oh, Mr. Reagan, I'll do anything for you, sir.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's my point. Is that he did the kissing.
Yes,
she didn't do that.
Sir. Yeah.
She didn't do the kissing. But no, she definitely helped with as far as getting him connections to the monies. Right.
Yeah.
And she got as he rose more in the Supreme Court, she rose more in the Republican Party. But yes, I do think she's most likely. Oh yeah,
and then he became her backing because people respected the fact that she was the wife of the Supreme Court justice.
Exactly.
That's how she got her start into the nitty gritty and like the deep ends of the Republican Party. But
because she was
way
already
far right.
Yeah, because
she was far right.
Yeah, but she was already there. But then she started getting like sway and influence.
Yeah, to get sway, influence, and some clout, and becoming like the face.
Yeah, and join the Tea Party and doing all that other stuff.
Oh my God!
I agree with you, Fulton. I think she is most likely top, and he's most likely bottom in this situation. She's the one that was ready to fight somebody when he was getting when he had his hearing to become the Supreme Court judge. She made the most Karen move I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of Karen moves, but she made the most Karen move I've ever seen on the face of this planet. She called Anita Hill. I wouldn't call the word asking, more of like requesting demand.
Yeah, that's what makes me curse somebody out. I'm like, wait, what?
She called her, was like, hey, it's been a couple of years now. I just wanted to know if you would be open to apologizing for what you said and did several years ago. It would be nice. Just give me a call back. Thanks.
And you know what? At the beginning of that clip, I thought she was going to say that for the apology, I thought she meant the apology from Clarence to Anita, not Anita, your apology to Clarence publicly.
Absolutely.
Okay, bye. I was like, wait, what?
She ended it with the
lady,
okay.
What? You're nuts.
She's crazy.
You psychopath. I mean, I'm crazy, but come on now. Come on.
Yeah. So
I don't ask people to make ridiculous types of things like that. I'm very fair and I'm objective. That's very different. She's crazy and she's unfair.
But that's
nuts.
it. That's what
I appreciate people being gung-ho for the husband. Shout out to all the good wives out there. But she was on a whole nother level for power and greed.
And she's just delusional.
Oh yeah, she is.
Right? I mean, she's a Karen.
Well, she couldn't lose the position. When you said the thing about Biden or Biden being elected, then yeah, she was trying not to lose the position of power.
Oh, but she wouldn't have with Joe. I mean, because it's a lifetime position. So I mean,
well, Clarence wouldn't have lost his position. Yeah. But her Tea Party political power and influence, like they were. I mean, they're still gonna have their parties, but it's much more fun when you guys have the lead. Like you have the presidency and kind of Congress and everything. You're doing everything unfettered, right?
Up like Trump.
So she just, I think because don't forget the history with Biden. That was another point of devastation from, I think we played a little clip of it in part 1.
Yes, because he was the one that was leading the hearing. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think in that moment, in the original hearing of Clarence Thomas, they had their moment, and then Biden didn't ask any of the other supposed women who had testimony to say anything. And so they thought like, hey, I got you. lo and behold, how many decades later, Biden is actually now not the chief of, I can't even remember the name of the term, but he's not head of Congress at that point. He is now actually president. I mean, it's their worst nightmare. Someone's elevated even higher when you thought you snuffed him out, and you're like, hey, we already got him, because no one even knows why Biden never called the other witnesses or the Democratic Party altogether, right? Or at least they haven't published that.
They haven't published it, but we
did our research, y'all.
But we kind of have an idea as to why. It's because he used the racial card, and they didn't really know how to handle that.
Yes,
so that's
with the lynching.
Yeah, so that's
because that was he waited. He did a lot of the hearing, and then that was like the last little.
That was the turning point. That's what sped things up. Yeah,
because no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear the lynching.
Well, especially
they
the Democrats.
Responsible for
the Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of racial justice and stuff. So they can't. They didn't know how to handle that move. Obviously, they were not prepared because they didn't think he was going to go in that direction. But it is what it is with that.
Yeah, and the backing they got from that Clarence got, surprisingly, and you might have mentioned that already.
I did already.
Okay, from the other black people from both sides of the aisle.
I want to go into the other interesting part of the documentary, and that's his friends. I know one of the comment section, one of the comments that you guys wrote in the last episode, somebody mentioned Harlan Crow and this, if you want to call it friendship. So y'all tell me, right? You have a guy who just cares so much about you, right? He's like, I just want to see you succeed. I want to see you thrive. I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you access to my private jet. I'm going to give you access to my yachts, and you can take this yacht anywhere you want. I'll even pay trips for you to go to New Zealand and live it up on some beaches. I'll pay for your mom's house because maybe your mom was about to face foreclosure. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy your mom's house for you so that she can stay at that house. Strange. You have a grandnephew who needs to go to boarding school? No problem. I'll pay for that too. What relationship between men is like that?
Well, now you're restricted to men, so I'm like...
But this is what this is. Harlan Crow's a dude. He's a guy, right? Like, to me, this is like a sugar daddy, sugar baby type relationship.
That's what it seemed like. I mean, that's what made me think that maybe they had some kind of nefarious relationship.
And somebody was giving out some butt.
Yeah. And that's not to say anything about both of them being males. It's just more of the fact that he's married.
I'm asking y'all this, though. Legitimately. I'm asking y'all, what kind of relationship is that? That's not a friendship.
It's not a friendship.
What kind of friend does all that? It could
be a secret friendship.
No, but it's not even a secret friendship. What
friendship where one person's benefiting way more.
One person is giving all this money and goods equivalent for what in exchange? So, to answer that question, right? Because we at this point we're now just in opinion land. My opinion is this explains why we're seeing what we see in the previous, the last previous months, whenever the Supreme Court has ruled on something, and we start seeing things shift all the way to the right. Why? Because Clarence Thomas is bought, paid in full, courtesy of Harlan Crow.
Yeah.
I mean, who gives out millions of dollars over the course of 20 years under the guise of friendship? That doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't.
That's what I'm asking y'all, right? Like, if I'm crazy, let me know. Do y'all have a friend like that?
A friend that's just giving you stuff for free?
For nothing in exchange?
It's something that we can see in exchange.
And that's what I'm saying. This looks like, to me, a sugar baby situation where, you give the sugar baby a bunch of money and bags and clothes and all this other stuff and trips and stuff. And in exchange, she gives you butt. Now, I'm not suggesting that Clarence Thomas is giving out butt, but what I am saying is he's giving out something.
Well, yeah, there's an exchange.
Something of equivalent value.
Especially, as you said, with men. Men don't typically just give something for nothing.
Unless he's not family, right? Like, if this is your family, like this is your little cousin, this is your brother, yeah, you give to them without asking for anything in return because that's your family. This guy is not family. This guy is not a colleague. He didn't go to school with him. The only reason why they met up is because he was a Supreme Court justice. You rip away Supreme Court justice, they're not friends. If you want to call this relationship a friendship.
Yeah, and not just like just general things. It was yacht trips, resort trips, travel to other countries, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I mentioned New Zealand already.
Yeah, so because I know I just kept saying things, but yeah, it's not trivial.
So we have a situation that we haven't seen before, where somebody of significant power has been purchased to this degree. Right?
Allegedly.
No, it's not allegedly. They have receipts.
Okay, there's receipts, but they haven't convicted him yet.
Yeah, but it's not alleged.
Maybe by court of public opinion.
You can't say it's allegedly he received gifts. That's not alleged.
Okay.
There are receipts for that.
Okay, there are receipts for the gifts, but allegedly it's nefarious. We can't say that it's nefarious.
Yes, okay. So we can say that he allegedly is purchased.
Because, I mean, someone could be a really good friend, and what if his friend Harlan is just really generous?
And that's why I'm asking you.
And can we look into... Because also, what they didn't compare is how many other people does Harlan give gifts to? Maybe he gives gifts to everybody. And Justice Clarence Thomas isn't anybody special. Highly unlikely.
And I'm asking you specifically now, do you think he's not purchased based off of what you just said? Or are you just playing devil's advocate?
I don't play anything. And I don't like him. So I think... You put me on the spot.
Yes.
If I think Clarence Thomas is purchased?
Yes.
I think Clarence Thomas blows with the wind. I think he's anti-black. I think he does not know who he is. Or no, he knows... He doesn't know who he is, but he also doesn't accept his own skin color. And why does that matter? Because it shouldn't matter. But at this point, he's fought so hard to get to a position of where he can separate himself from what he identifies as being black. As you know, one of our other episodes we put in there, black does not equal poor. But in his mind, he thinks black people are poor and he doesn't want to be any part of it. And so he's doing everything he can to separate himself from that. Okay, so
what you're suggesting is he is capitalizing on his position like he's been doing most of his career.
He's been capitalizing.
And it's not what you're saying is it's not malicious as far as like, oh, now I feel indebted to this guy. What you're saying is Clarence is like, I'm just capitalizing on this opportunity, and yeah, I'll take this. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take this.
Oh, okay. Well, no. In that case, I would say he's either really naive, right? Because sometimes people do take things and they think that, oh yeah, I'm just special. I'm just getting things for free. They just love me. Look at them. And I truly believe that he thinks these people love him. I think he thinks he's built his repertoire up in Washington, and people just bow at his feet, which they do, but they want something in exchange. Washington people don't just move like that.
So what you're telling me, okay, so now I'm trying to pinpoint where your position is. So you're basically saying Clarence is an idiot who's naive and doesn't realize the hole he's digging himself into.
This man is not an idiot. I think he's naive.
Then what are you saying? It's like because you're saying some people are naive, so that's what I'm saying.
No, naive for a Supreme Court justice. I'm not saying he's naive in that sense.
So then he's purchased, because that means he's fully.
Is not naive.
He's fully. Yes, that's my point.
Okay.
He's fully. You're saying that we both have the understanding that he's fully aware of what he's doing and what he's receiving, and what he's supposed to do in return.
You're saying that.
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out what you're saying.
I'm not saying he's fully aware.
So that's naive.
Well, for the consequences. I don't think he's fully aware for the consequences. I think he's aware of one part of it. He's seeing only the benefit. Oh, I get to travel with these rich people. I get to be with these people.
That's naive then, because then he's not.
Because he thinks they like him. They don't like him. They want what he has. He has a position, one of 9 justices on the Supreme Court of the United States.
So then you think
he wants their decision.
So then you think he's naive because he doesn't understand.
Or they want his decision, rather.
Yeah. So you think that he's an idiot because he doesn't understand that accepting all this stuff, these people want you to vote a certain way.
I would never call a Supreme Court justice of the United States an
idiot. I have no problems doing that.
Well, I don't, especially because he went to Yale Law School. He's not an idiot, but on the sense of like human level of just forgetting school and academics.
Okay, so I don't equate. Okay, so not all right. So maybe idiot's the wrong word. Not wise. Because
I think he's not wise.
Because going to school does not make you wise. That just makes you really smart at whatever subject you
I think he's not wise. I think he doesn't look long term. Or no, that's incorrect. He looks long term because he's been planning for long term for a while. But he is misguided about the people he surrounded himself with, maybe even including his wife, Ginny. Because he wants this power so bad, and they want power as well. But he also, I think, even though it's not revealed and he has not publicly said that to my knowledge, that he wants friends, he wants true friendship. The same thing he's been wanting since he was a child, since he was a little black boy ostracized among, black Americans when he was a Geechee native African person in Georgia. Or closer to them. And even whenever he went to the seminary with the white boys, he's wanted acceptance. I mean, everybody wants acceptance, right? It's a human experience. I'm not a psychologist, but human experience. Yeah. You want acceptance from your peers. And I think he's still trying to get that from his peers now at his old age. And he'll do anything to get it.
Okay. So then, do you think he's going to come to this realization?
Which part? What I just said about...
Well, I can accept that I can accept what you said, but that means that there's a second part to this, and that's why I'm asking the question. Do you think he's going to finally come to the realization that those trips and the money and all that stuff was not free?
When they give him the bill, and they're like, okay, now it's time to vote for abortion or vote for whatever they're trying to get from him.
That's where I have to go back to my position, which is I think he's fully aware of what's going on. I think he understands what the business is, and I think he is executing his end of the deal.
Okay,
that's where I'm coming from.
You can't be in Washington that long and not be aware that people want stuff from you. Everybody wants something from you.
But then if you go back,
so you're right. I get what you're saying. I can't contradictorily say, okay, he doesn't know what they want and he's also naive and all that stuff. No, he partially knows. I think he just hasn't fully accepted what the ramifications have been of his actions.
But I think he has.
I think he's enjoying those trips. Who's not going to enjoy a trip to
But here's the thing,
Aruba?
though. But this is what I'm saying, though. I think
and to New Zealand.
Let's
go.
But here's the thing. I think he understands this, and he's already cashing in his end of the deal because of look at his decisions.
Okay, when
his decisions are directly in line with how Harlan Quinn. So then he's paid. Yes, that's what I've been saying from the very beginning. I said when we started this conversation. So then he's not beholden
to Harlan for anything in the future. You think he's already paid up in full?
No, I don't think he's paid in full. I think he just started.
Oh,
he needed enough
because
justices.
Now he's just now getting
but he needed enough justices to execute.
And you with Amy Coney Barrett and
Brett
Kavanaugh. Now he has more justice to do more.
Yes.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Excuse my language, y'all. But I mean, can you even say that on YouTube? Yeah, he's now made himself everybody's little bitch. Like you can't.
No, I don't think you can say that.
Because excuse my language. Use my language, y'all. But no, I mean, okay, their dog. You can't. I don't know. He's trying to cash in chips that aren't there. You can't just try to win over people and then what? What is the end? So now you're going to continually be doing things for these people to get their acceptance, and so then I mean,
I gotta hold my end of the deal.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to do more trips.
Friendship is give and take.
Yes, and I'm about to do my giving. I just got started with it just now with the abortion thing that just happened, right?
So then I would say that's not a fair deal. With me with contracts, I think that's not a fair deal to Clarence Thomas. Not that he accepts fair deals. As we know, he's taking the bottom of the barrel to get scraps. But I just don't think that's a fair deal for him, for this billionaire to be getting votes on the Supreme Court. Now, mind you, that's illegal.
It is, and this is where eventually this is what I would like to see happen.
And sorry, I'll get to the comment section in a second.
What I would like to see happen is a thorough investigation on all of these gifts that he's been receiving over the last 20 years. We are just now uncovering a lot of that stuff, and I want to see him removed from the Supreme Court.
Do you want him? This is enough. Do you want him? Do you think would it be enough to get removed just on like a neutral basis, or do you want him to get removed for that? Because it's one thing to say, oh, well, he's stepped down now, he's of old age, he wants to spend time with the family, or this man has been committing egregious acts and we need to get him off the court because,
Yeah, this is enough for you to get kicked off the Supreme Court. It's supposed to be an independent party that should not be influenced by money. And that is a direct influence by money. So a president of the United States cannot get away with that. A president of the United States can't be purchased by Saudi Arabia or some other type of thing like that. They're going after Trump right now because of his collusions with Russia.
Oh, they're going to go after him for everything because they don't want him to get back in office.
And that's why but you can't do certain things with in certain positions of power. You can't do certain things. I remember in my little position that I had when I was working for government, I couldn't accept gifts over $500. He's
being humble, y'all.
Sorry,
it's not a little position, but okay.
Over not 500. It was under. I couldn't accept gifts that were over $100.
Oh, yes, yes.
So it's like anything that was over or just a value
not
equivalent.
if you don't report it.
But that's the thing, though. As soon as you start doing that, you're going into the dark side of things.
And I think so. What do you think happened there? Whenever he started not reporting, you think he like just he forgot, or do you think?
No, he didn't forget, because remember when he got pressured with that question, he said, "This is a gift from a friend, and I don't have to report gifts from friends." So he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not stupid.
From the start? No, I'm just mean like how did he?
When he got asked that question by that reporter, that's what he said. That was his response.
So he was ready. He knew like, okay, at some point they're gonna ask me.
Of course, he probably did what he did during his hearing. Right? He was coached throughout his whole hearing. If you guys go back and watch his hearing when he became Supreme Court Justice, right? He didn't answer a single question. He was coached to not answer any questions.
I think Fulton's in agreement with you. He's I think it's not completely out of the question. This is a little bit back of possibility, but given his position and the sum, it should be called into question for sure. And they said, don't stop with him though. Audit every politician in every position.
Yeah,
it's a problem across the board.
I would be in favor of that. I would be in favor of that.
In my opinion, sorry.
Absolutely, sure. I don't think that type of behavior has any place in our government. Right, because here's a problem, right? And again, with the position I had, right, as soon as you start taking gifts from people, right, again, nobody does anything for free. So then what's going to come? You're going to get a phone call, right, at some point.
Maybe for a promise for the future.
Right, but that's the problem, though.
So
right?
It seems like free at first.
Well, it's not. It's never free, right? Unless you're just completely ignorant of how the game runs.
That's true.
But it's like, when you do that, you're going to receive a phone call. Right. And that person's going to be, hey, look, this is new thing coming out in the legislature and I need you to do X, Y, Z. And you have to say yes.
And what if your ideology goes against that?
He's going to find a way to remove you and place you with somebody who is going to say yes.
And then you have to be willing to step down. But obviously, Clarence is not willing to step down.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think
neither is Ginny.
None of these people are.
Ginny only married him so she could have power.
Yes. And so I'm not saying, first of all, we have different premises. You have the premise that he's still a good guy. I don't think he's a good guy.
I never said this man was a good guy.
Yeah, but like
I never said that.
You never said that, but what you just said just now indicates that, if he just knew what he was doing, he would go in a different direction.
No. I think if he knew what he was doing, then he wouldn't have as much scathing that's to come in the future. I think that he's an embarrassment to black people.
But you don't start in the beginning.
People in general. I mean, it's very sad and disgusting.
When he got there, he was 40 years old. He's not new to the game.
He's not new to the game, but he's decided to be a punk.
On purpose.
He
knows what he's doing.
And it's strategic, but it just makes things worse for the rest of us.
How?
Because then that's how people assume that, okay, well, I can just treat black people anyhow. Like, I can be you, however, and they're just going to take it because this man is going to take it because he wants certain powers.
I wouldn't say that this is racial because this is what happens to everybody.
What are you talking about? The political pull or the power, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about...
Yeah, well, getting punked and stuff. Yes, there is some kind of game in Washington and outside of there that the political games, the workplace politics that people play. But I'm saying when you do that as a black person, it's worse.
It's not worse. It's the same.
For you.
No, it's the same.
Why do you think it's the same?
Because anybody who makes that same decision gets the same results.
You get the same results, but I think you step black people 10 steps backwards because then people associate that with, I can treat that black person anyhow I want to treat them. It's not just the same. For me, it's not the same because I think that I require a level of respect from people, right? And okay. I think you have to set the precedent. You don't go around screaming, respect me. But Clarence Thomas, right? Justice Clarence Thomas really has just set people so far back.
He hasn't. He set himself back.
He set himself back, but I think he's and also it's just a disgrace that he even took the position of the
before you finish that thought, I want to because you just said something. I think if he is a representation of something, he's a representation of the black Republican, but he's not a representation of black people.
No, I hate when you say that because there's other black Republicans.
There are other black Republicans, but I'm saying if he is a representative of anything, my point as it relates to this is anybody who plays that game gets treated the same regardless of what their race is, because people assume if you're coming over here and I give you a gift that this is what it is. It doesn't matter what that person is. that person gets treated the same.
And you don't think they go a step further if you're black?
No, because if you never start, if somebody comes up to you and you never accept it,
I'm not making an excuse, right?
Well, no, but I'm saying
because you represent yourself.
But my point,
you set the precedent of how people treat you. Correct.
But
I've done that many times.
If you never started, they can't execute the next part of that process.
Okay, and if you do that to enough people, and you let's just say, I don't know, let's put out a random number out there, and the majority of people that accept that are black, and the majority of people who don't accept that are another race.
But the majority of people who don't, I don't agree with that statement.
Well, black Republicans.
But again, they just represent themselves. They're in different spaces.
They do represent themselves. In actuality is what I'm saying. But I'm saying the image that is put forth is that, oh, okay, well, I can go ahead. And that's what, because I'm saying from real lived experience, that is how people approach you so it's an extra hurdle. Obviously, they don't continue to treat me in a certain way, or they don't continue to behave a certain way. And not just me, but I just want people to be factual, right? I just want people to actually obviously treat people with respect no matter what your race or creed or anything like that.
Okay.
But I think that it's disgusting of Clarence Thomas's behavior. I think he could have gotten to his position without doing all this hoopla and dancing and jiving for, the conservative, extreme right Republicans and marrying Ginny, who may not even like him because she's there for power.
Sure.
I think there were other options.
There were.
And he just didn't take them, which is his choice.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have any disagreement there.
Okay. I yield back. I mean, I don't know. I yield back.
All right. So I think what I would like to do here is I would like to end this with some final thoughts. So what were some of your final thoughts with the documentary and then just the things that we've discussed thus far?
Ooh. Okay, give me a minute. Let me just collect myself. Do you have yours ready or no?
No, that's why I asked you.
That's what you asked me first. You put me under the bus?
Absolutely.
No. Okay. The documentary as a whole, can I go back to part one? Or are you time out?
Whatever your takeaways were. Give me like 2 or 3 takeaways.
I mean, mine's going to be a while, so I don't know if you want to go first.
Do you have one?
One takeaway? I think one of the main takeaways is you have the right and the power within yourself to decide and design your own destiny, obviously with God and in line with God. That's my position, and what God has planned for you. And if you believe in it and you believe in yourself and you have confidence in yourself, or you pray to God to give you direction, you can find your way. And how that relates to Clarence Thomas is, I think he did start off on the right path with...
At what point?
Maybe as a child. I mean, when his grandfather put him with the Catholics to learn about the Bible and learn direction. And although he didn't become a priest, obviously God will take you into different directions. So you can choose what you want to be. And I just don't approve of what he chose. But also, I would say it doesn't matter what other people think of you. It doesn't matter what I think of Clarence Thomas or anything like that. So he has his own option to choose what he wants, where he wants to go. I just think that it would have been better for him to have really maybe had some insight into himself. I don't think he was very self-aware. I think he could have gone further. And I mean, I guess that's also scaled of what do you determine as further, right? Because he wanted to be in Ronald Reagan's camp and he wanted to be with the white Republicans. And I wouldn't have a problem with that. Right? I've worked for Republicans. I've worked with conservatives. I'm very much for family values and religious liberty. And I believe in making families a family unit of mother and father and the children. And I think it's the safest environment for children to grow up healthily. Well, mother and father that get along. Let me go ahead and throw that out there. But
yeah, but I wouldn't say those are Republican values. I would think those are just values of somebody who just happens to be religious. And there's religious
well, you don't
people.
have to be religious to get that too. But I mean, you can get into right ways.
Those would be commonalities.
Okay, commonalities. Yes. Unfortunately, Clarence didn't grow up in that environment, but he did get different pieces from here and there. And I think maybe he associated a stable life with, white people, which there's nothing wrong with that, because it's not a race that there's not one race that has the stable life. It's the type of environment your parents or whoever is in charge of raising you sets for you, right? I think that he's gone the wrong way. Him and Ginny have gone down a dark path, and that's one major takeaway, I guess, because I know you said one, is the fact that I really left coming away quite angry, and it takes a lot to get me riled up. It takes a lot to get me to that point, but I really felt like maybe they're a little bit evil people, because I'm like, from the way that the documentary presented, and even the way they present themselves, you would think, and maybe they still think, that they were trying to promote something that would help the American people. Ginny is like, I was in lines with her about the anti-abortion thing. We don't get along on the equal pay for women. I disagree with her on that. I don't know why equal pay for equal work is wrong, but she was against that. Because she's with the feminists. There's modern feminism and past feminism. We don't want to get into all that, but I think they think that they're doing the right thing. They did at some point. But Clarence Thomas, there's no way that you think ostracizing and discriminating and being, disgraceful towards anybody in your office. I don't care if they were black people or if they're Italian or they're, whatever race and creed. He was really disgusting towards his employees. And that's another thing where it's, I'm highly biased on it, obviously, because, I have an employee who's been treating wrongly in the workplace. But even if I hadn't, I think I have the ability to objectively see where, you need to treat people well. That's one thing I'm like, and I think that the one main thing, because I said the one main thing like 3 different times, y'all, I'm sorry.
I want to jump in, so, close this up.
No, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay.
I'm going to go back and forth.
I have to let you finish. I can't just cut you off in the middle of the thing, but it's like, wrap it up.
Well, I think it's what I say every episode. People need to treat each other well. And these people don't seem like people who are treating people well. I wish them the best. I hope for them that, things are going well. And I hope that they are right with God, because I think a reckoning is coming, because you can't do evil to people and turn a blind eye. You're even asking the woman you assaulted through your wife to apologize to you after you're the one who you did something. Allegedly. Yes, yeah, right?
We don't know.
So I'm going to say allegedly. But there are too many accusations.
We can't say that. We can't say that he asked his wife.
Maybe but I will say that. I don't make quick judgment. Originally, I thought it was one of these Me Too scandals of like, oh, there's a powerful black man and they want to take him down, so they're just saying whatever. No, this man, his character shows enough evidence for me that even if he didn't do this particular one, he's done enough stuff to different people.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying we can't say that he asked his wife to call her.
Oh, well, whether you ask your wife or you don't ask your wife, you're a unit.
Yeah.
Once you're married, if she does something, it's going to be looked at on your behalf. So I don't care if you ask Ginny to call her or not. Your wife was bold enough to call this woman who was assaulted by your husband, and you said, "Oh, can you apologize to my husband?" What kind of shit is that?
All right, let me. You mentioned a lot of stuff, and so I'm gonna.
It's disgusting.
I'm gonna try.
They're evil people.
Yeah. Okay.
Following Satan.
All right. I would say my biggest takeaway, and what I would like you guys to look at, you in the audience, is I want you to study him. I want you to study Clarence Thomas. I want you to study his history, because this helps you understand why certain people you might run into in life do the things that they do. I think that he had an unhealthy understanding and relationship with black people. I think that he interpreted events in a off manner that gave him certain conclusions. I think that kind of the point you made as far as, white being better in some form of fashion, he might have adopted a lot of those things. I also agree with you on the fact that he didn't fully formulate who he was. And even when he was in college, he didn't truly know who he was, which a lot of people who go to college don't. So I wouldn't put that on him.
Okay.
But some of the conclusions you made at the end of college helped push you in a direction that you are today. And I think some of those things are very problematic. And that's where I was saying, is this a situation of just self-hate or independent thinker? Because he grew up as an outsider. He grew up as an outsider among black people. He grew up as an outsider among white people. And I do think he had this, that whole wanting to be accepted thing, but he didn't seem to care too much about being accepted among black people. The interest of being accepted seems to be more in one specific demographic. And, the people who wish for the riches of this world will get them, but they will also lose a lot of things. And one of those might be your soul. And I think that he, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? I don't know what the Supreme Court, with him being in charge now since Scalia's gone and he's the head, conservative person, I guess. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I hope that the radicalness of the Republican Party gets muted. I don't have a specific vendetta against Republican folks or conservative people. I'm more purple. Some of the things that I believe in are liberal, and other things are conservative. So I don't really look at people as those labels, but I don't agree with mistreatment of people, and I don't believe in making decisions that don't make sense for the overall group. And so, with some of these decisions that we talked about during this episode, along with the decisions that we haven't disclosed, you guys can feel free to go to his website to look at more of that information. Some of it looks problematic, and I don't know what he thinks an idealistic world is, because I don't even know if he knows what he wants. So I think everything that I've seen as far as the documentary and this in later months, and then the stuff coming out of Harlan Crow, it seems like it's other people's opinions being executed through him. And I don't really know who Clarence Thomas is. And so that's a problematic person, because that person can go in any direction. And so, yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to know what you guys think. I think it was a really well done documentary. And so, it was a really nice insight into his history.
I mean, did Anakin know where he was going?
I think yes, there was one part, and I think I think a lot of people have this moment. If you guys, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I'm gonna geek out a little bit, but Anakin realized what direction he was going in when he went to Mustafar after killing all those kids.
After he made those steps. That's where
right.
I would say, I would also say Clarence, at some point, that's when he was cognizant. I don't think initially when he took the steps, he knew what he was getting himself into.
Actually, I might have to go even before that.
Okay.
I might have to go.
And Fulton says he thinks that he took the easy route.
He did take the easy route. That's 100% facts. Right? He saw a quick line and he's like, I want it now. Right? So yes, you're absolutely right on that. But back to Anakin, I think that with Anakin, I think he first realized the step he took in the wrong direction after Mace Windu confronted Palpatine. And he helped Palpatine push Mace Windu out of the window, right? And then he drops down to his knees and he says, "What have I done?"
He did have that reflective moment, that like, okay. And he actually it was almost maybe remorse. I don't know if that's pushing too far with the emotion, but he was...
at that moment, it was too fast, because immediately his emotion changed to fear, because now you have this character looming over you who just killed Mace Windu, and now he's saying you need to accept the dark side. And so part of him was a little fearful, but then also part of him was also ambitious, right? He wanted to understand the power of how to control death. And so...
Anakin did?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, he wanted to figure out how he could save Padme, right? So some of it was his ambition. Some of it was the fear of the person that he's about to indebt himself to. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of suppressed some of that remorse to the side to focus on the next mission. And I think when he had a free moment by himself, especially if you guys can go back to that movie where, after he kills all the separatists in Mustafar, you have that scene where he's crying. Because he's like, I've done so many bad things, and, I'm losing myself. Yeah. Right. And so maybe Clarence has that kind of a moment. I don't know. I don't know him well enough to even say that. even with all this, documentary stuff. But
Yeah.
it is an interesting point, and that's an interesting comparison you brought up.
Yeah, Fulton says that Anakin's problem was that he didn't have the right structure around him.
Yeah.
The Jedi had lost the personal connection Anakin needed, and Palpatine filled that gap.
Absolutely, that's 100% facts. He whispered in his ear from a very young age, and became like a mentor and an elder to him. And he didn't realize that elder was actually Satan.
Oh my God!
But yeah, that's all we have for today, guys. It was a great show. We got a little, I always take pride in getting Mel Melissa heated up.
I saw that. I had to calm myself down. I'm just kidding. I'm calm. I want people to treat people right. There's just so much to ask to treat people right. If any of y'all evil people out there, try and check yourself and consider your ways. You really harm people. You don't know what you're doing to somebody. The one mean thing you say to somebody, you don't know if they're on the edge.
That's true.
And then, it doesn't take that much to either smile or just walk away.
You know what else it doesn't take much to do?
Like and subscribe. Oh, but also tap the notification bell. Please engage in the community post. Well, you are, so I can't act like that. You are, so thank you to y'all who already have. Vote. We want to know your opinion. We want to know what you want to hear about. Let us know. Please don't pick John Morant again. I really don't want to do a podcast on him. But all right, thank you.
We'll see you guys next time.